Yeah, does it? I'm not getting near you.
Alright, try it. Try not to curse.
Now you can explain what you're doing if you like, but so far I've just been taking silent.
Alright, so this is a centrifugal caster, and what this does is it's a spring-loaded machine, centrifugal, uses centrifugal force to push the media, which in this case is 925 sterling silver. This is refined shot. We're going to put it into the crucible, and we're going to melt it. We're going to preheat the crucible. As you can see, I already wound it up and set it. And what happens is the spring arm, when it's activated, will move over. We will put the flask in here, which has the impressions of the product that we're going to cast. And right now, this is step one: winding the machine, setting it, and using natural gas and oxygen. We're going to bring this up to about 2100 degrees. Melt the silver media into the crucible, and then shoot it through a hole in the back of the crucible. You can see there's a hole on it. It goes through it. What will happen is as it spins, it will push itself through into the flask, which has the product that we're casting. It will inject itself into that. The centrifugal force will keep the molten metal in the flask, in the impression of the product that we're making. It will keep it there, and as it spins, it will cool. The metal will crystallize, re-solidify, and then we'll bust the plaster away from the product, and it'll expose it. You'll see the whole process in a few minutes. This is when I start moving crackers. Sunday. Are you still recording?
Yeah, I'm still recording. I'm going to take the punch dip first.
So what I'm doing is I'm preheating the crucible so that when we shoot the media into the mold, the metal does not freeze on the sides of the crucible. Because if the crucible is not at the right temperature, the metal will freeze on the side of the crucible, and it will not enter the flash that holds the impression of what we're going to inject into it, which is the silver in this instance. So now we're ready to place the silver, the sterling silver, in the crucible. It's nice and warm now. You can see the glow, the nice orange glow. And we are going to as you can see, the silver is now in a liquid state. Is that? In a liquid state. And we're going to add a little bit of metal cleaner to it. This cleans the metal, surface and the inner of the metal, and helps the bonding of the atoms. All right, Raymond, if you'll go get the flask. You have a little tripod for that.
I have it all.
Okay. In the center. Is it in the center?
Mm-hmm.
Got it? Good. Okay, move away. Thank you. All right. Now, once the silver gets to a perfect temperature, and I know that the flask and the crucible are aligned, and I will unlock and release the centrifugal casting machine. And what's happening now in an instant, the molten metal went through the back of the crucible into the flask and filled the cavity where a wax badge was, a Trenton police badge. I think this is the one. What's happening now is the centrifugal force is keeping that molten gold in that flask without letting it drip out, okay, into the machine itself. And at the same time, it's cooling. Through motion, it's cooling, dropping the temperature and solidifying that liquid metal back into a solid.
Very cool.
Coming to a stop. As you can see, the metal is not in the crucible anymore, and I'm going to hand over the tongs to Ray, and Ray is going to quench. And Ray is going to quench the flask. He's going to stop the machine, grab the flask, release the crucible, pull it back more, okay, and we're going to bring it over to the sink, and we are going to quench, then let them see the plaster. So here's the button, let them see the metal. So here's the metal, here's the button inside the flask, and now, wait a couple of seconds, just let it cool a little bit more. Okay, now, to get the plaster away from the models that are inside here, we're going to quench it in water, which will make the plaster release from the mold. And here we go. And there it is. That's about 900 degrees right now. And this is just plain tap water. Nothing toxic. It's just plaster of Paris, basically, and silver. Oh, and this one was not the badge. This was the flower baskets, not the badges. Wipe that off a little bit. There you go, and we had to make 3 of those for a customer, and I made an extra one. And that's now in
sterling silver.
And this is the way it looks before we file and polish and finish. You have to give it a little bit of a brush to get it down. Let's see a little bit better. That should be good. Yeah. Okay, so we are cooling down now. I'm out of focus. Okay, here we go. We're cooling down. Raymond is now about to pull the flask out of apart from the crucible. As you can see, there is the button of silver right here where the silver entered the crucible and the plaster of Paris around it. And we're going to take it over to the sink carefully because it's still at 900 to 975 degrees. And we're going to now eliminate the plaster of Paris from around the badges that we made that are trapped inside here now, inside the flask. And by doing that in cold water, it will separate the plaster of Paris away from the items. Go ahead. A little bit more.